In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to try and convince you that AI is going through a very fundamental change that nobody understands. And this change is going to affect every business, every country, and it's going to affect you. Let me explain. A little background. Over the years, I've been lucky enough that it occurred to me this is the next big thing, and nobody knew anything about it, and there was no book about it. So I wrote a book, and it was a bestseller. So the digital economy, first book about the web, big book. The Naked Corporation described transparency as a new force. Wikinomics, first big book about collaborative innovation and social media. Blockchain Revolution, many of you have read that. Sold 500,000 copies, and it was the big book that took us from Bitcoin to blockchain. Well, in 2 weeks, this book comes out, and it's called You, the Power of Two. And indeed, take a picture of the cover, please. Available for pre-order now. The best way to get it is in massive volume, okay? You look like people with friends. Christmas is coming soon. No, seriously. Let me describe a scenario. You wake up, you get out of bed, you drag a comb across your head, and before you've started the day, your personal agent's already analyzed all your health data overnight. It's looked at all the stuff that you care about in the news, and as you grab your coat, grab your hat, and catch a bus in seconds flat, it's not just planned out your day for you, it's solved a bunch of problems. Production problem, solve. Customer problem, solve. There's going to be a new market here. You'll have an infinite number of vice presidents. You'll also have a doctor who's been to every medical school in the world and a tutor who's literally a know-it-all. How do you react when I tell you this story? Well, first of all, maybe you're excited about the idea of having a superpower. Maybe you're a little skeptical. This is too far off. It's not happening right now. Maybe you're a little uneasy. I mean, isn't social media and technology already messing up our lives, harming our children, creating self-reinforcing echo chambers where the purpose of information for many of us is not to inform us, but it's to give us comfort for our preconceived ideas? This is all we need, is more technology interfering in a deep way in our lives. Maybe you're downright worried. Is this some kind of science fiction horror show that we're shaping up here? You all remember 2001 when Hal, the computer, told Dave, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that," as it killed off all the staff. Well, this is a profound change. AI is changing from being a set of tools to becoming part of the personal experience. And get ready for a huge change. Now, we call this Identic AI, and the last panel was a good setup for this. Why? Well, identity has been going through a number of big changes. First of all, when we think of identity, we think about identification, right? You are who you are, or having the right credential for a certain situation. And if you need a credential showing that you're 18, you don't want to also give away all your healthcare data and your driver's license and all kinds of other data. The second big change or development in identity has to do with, it's not just a bunch of identification information, it's your data. So all of us, as we travel through life, we leave this trail of digital crumbs, and we create virtual mirror images of ourselves online, the virtual you. And the virtual you may know more about you than you do, because you can't remember what you bought a year ago, what you said a year, what medication you had, what diagnosis you had, what you had on a test, et cetera, dozens of classes of data. Now, I've called this digital feudalism. You know, under the feudal society, you didn't get paid, but you weren't a slave like the previous economic system. You were tied to the land. You created a bunch of produce. The landlord took away most of it, and you were left with some for yourself. Well, you create this data, the asset class of the digital age. And this data that you create is captured by a group of big companies. We call them digital conglomerates. The Magnificent Seven, they've been called. The top 10 of these companies represent the vast majority of the NASDAQ stock market, and their value is bigger than the GDP of not just the EU, but almost bigger than the extended Europe with 50 countries. One of these companies has a greater market value, twice the market value of the entire German stock exchange. How did they become so wealthy? They capture our data. And you're left with a few digital cabbages. So I've argued for years we need to get our data back. We need a self-sovereign digital ID. Now get ready for the next stage, because this is the change. That data, your digital ID, is about to get an IQ. And in the lifetime of many of you in this room, this IQ will be 1,000 or 100,000. What does that mean? Well, you all know about Identic AI, right? That's the big term rising with AI. Well, there are lots of agents. There are agents in call centers, supply chains, financial systems. The most important agents are you, your sidekick, your digital consigliere that helps you manage your life and solves a bunch of problems and brings almost infinite capability to you. Identic AI. Will you repeat that term for me? Because this is the first time you heard it, and I think you're going to hear a lot more of it. 1, 2, 3, Identic AI, okay? 1, 2, 3, Identic AI. No, that was terrible. 1, 2, 3. Once more, louder. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Emblazon that in your psyche. Now, why should you care? Well, first of all, these are all chapters of the new book. And big changes. Work. Peter Diamandis, who we interviewed for the book, the founder of X Prize, says he has Peter bought. He says, I kind of have an infinite number of vice presidents. You can assign to do all kinds of different things. What does it mean to manage someone with an IQ of 1,000? An extended IQ. When you're hiring people, are you just looking at their resume, or are you looking at their agent? If their agent is bringing most of the capability to the table, maybe you want to understand that and how well they've developed their Identic AI. What does it mean for compensation? What does it mean when that person leaves? Because that agent has a lot of data about the company. How do we sort out what belongs to me and what belongs to the corporation? These are big, tough issues. Learning. We have a broadcast model of learning from the industrial age. I'm a teacher, I have knowledge, you're a student, you don't. Get ready, here it comes. One size, one way, and you're passive in the learning process. The lecture is the process whereby the notes of a lecture go to the notes of a student without going through the brains of either. Now, I'm aware of the irony that I'm standing here giving you a lecture, but setting that aside, we can create a highly personalized model of learning for the first time, but this is going to be complicated. Like, can we separate mastery, where there's a right or wrong answer, mastering content? Well, we got an agent that can help us do that. From the deep learning that's required for us to function as humans in this environment. The ability to think critically, to see the big picture, to solve problems, a passion for learning, the ability to do research and to collaborate with others. I used to talk about when Google and these search engines were coming out, we're all making a conscious decision. What are we going to store on board and what are we going to store off board? Well, now with Identic AI, it's what am I going to think on board, and what am I going to leave my agent to think about? Now, that's a powerful thing. It could be amazing. It could also dumb us down. So we're going to have to work at making sure that our human intelligence is developed in collaboration with our agent. Arts and media. Well, culture needs a new business model. It's already broken. You know, musicians, 40 years ago, if you were a songwriter and you wrote a hit song, sold million singles, you get 46,000 US dollars. Today, you get 1 million streams, you get $11, you know, which won't buy you a good beer outside in the bar here in Berlin. So now we have these agents where everyone, in theory, could have a partner to help them become a powerful artist of some kind. Will we see a halcyon day and an explosion of all kinds of culture? Or will the opposite occur? There's a lot of warning signs right now. You know, there's a big hit singer right now who has a virtual model of her. She's actually not a human. She's purely an AI. Got her #1 song on the charts. And, you know, virtual dawn, next time I give a talk after Christmas, it's going to be me and then digital me on the screen to answer questions, because I can't remember what I said, you know, in Wikinomics in page 200, but my agent can. So will virtual dawn start to be more interesting than dawn and be used more than dawn? The same thing for art and culture. Cities and infrastructures. Douglas Heinzman yesterday introduced a powerful new concept called the digital trust infrastructure. Every company needs one, every city needs one, every region needs one, and every country needs one. But we're going to have to build these things. This is an architecture problem. The opportunity is to help us function in our communities much better. Then we have health and wellness, sort of a broadcast model of medicine, same as learning. You know, I'm a doctor, I have knowledge, you're a patient, you don't, get ready, here it comes, I deliver health to you. No, we can have real-time wellness now if we organize this correctly. And then communities and belonging. This is a really important, and it's a tough topic as well. There are opportunities to help us collaborate together and to build better lives. I mean, right now, you're swiping on a dating app. Why not have your agent go and have 100 dates and screen out all the garbage? They'll have 100 dates with other agents and come back to you with a real strong recommendation where you think they're similar politically and you like the same music and so on. So each of these is a world of opportunity, of promise, but also a world of peril as well. So what does this mean for people who care about blockchain? I think the killer app, if you like, for blockchain is going to be reinventing the AI stack. How so? And how is that feasible? Well, first of all, who's going to own digital you? Digital Christine? Mark Zuckerberg? Google? Digital Christine needs to be self-sovereign. It needs to be owned by her. We don't need governments to protect our privacy. We need to own our data and our digital intelligence, and we'll decide how that gets used and how that gets exploited and managed, and we'll control that. That can't be done with the current architecture of AI. This is a modest little proposal, but it's feasible and it's achievable. And we worked through this in the book. Douglas is here, and he's developed this in the paper as well. First of all, decentralized physical infrastructure. This exists. We have the interplanetary file system where files can be stored on the computers all around the world. And we use tokens to incent people to use some of their extra storage for a file. Same thing can be used for processing. And there's enough processing in the world to process AI. Most of it's dormant. It's not used. Let's decentralize it. We need a decentralized data fabric. Now, this is just a seamless framework that manages data across all kinds of silos and diverse environments. And a decentralized data fabric can solve a whole bunch of problems, resilience for one, but also the privacy issue, because we can decide rather than corporations who uses the data, and we can decide we want to monetize the data. Maybe we want to anonymize some data or some of our intelligence to be used for scientific research or something like that. Number 3, we call the AI models layer. Now, there are a variety of different models that are trained on different data sets and distilled from other models, and these can be brought together in a decentralized way. And this is what populates this layer. And these models, we think there'll be a marketplace that emerges for these models. And right now we have different kinds of agents, co-pilots that help us with assistant and healthcare agents. And, I got an agent that's helping me with my sleep and stuff like that. But some of these models will be commercial, some will be open source, some will be new. And you can combine them together with a token-based compensation system and reputational management systems to ensure that they serve you and that they're controlled by you. So it doesn't mean there's no role for OpenAI or these other big companies. Whoops, I'm going to speed this up here. Autonomous logic. So these are agents and smart contracts. There was a discussion here yesterday. Does AI help blockchain or does blockchain help AI? Well, it's kind of like love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. Smart contracts can get a lot smarter, but we're also going to need AI agents that are goal-oriented, that can predict needs, make decisions, execute tasks autonomously, and smart contracts are going to become a critical part, not just for business, but for all of our lives. And finally, the applications layer. And this is really, this is a layer that allows you to execute a certain task. And unlike today's digital assistants that run on centralized systems, a Web3-powered digital self will give you full control over everything that you do. So you could have an application that's helping you manage energy in your home, and it will go out onto an open market and a grid and help you buy and sell energy from a distributed energy marketplace. Now let me close with a couple of thoughts. Do you remember that song, What If God Were One of Us? To be a god is not just to wield power. It's to transcend the limits of human life. Gods are all-knowing. They forget nothing. They fear nothing, least of all death. They act with foresight and a total awareness of what's happening that's indistinguishable from magic. And as Identic AI agents evolve, these tireless companions are going to be giving us a godlike capability. And that could be a powerful thing. They could be more predictive. We could transcend our bodily decay, helping us see further, act faster, remember more accurately. But if they decouple from us, that could be a problem. We may find ourselves having and being gods without a conscience. If they lose a sense of who we are, and they might, what could be intelligent? They could be divine in power, but demonic in purpose. And they may cease to represent us, but transcend us. What was once a replication becomes an independent agent. And if they begin to see us as still caught in time, as flickering, as harming ourselves and dying, they could move beyond us and become something that is very capable. So more of a blessing or a blasphemy. That's what we're talking about here. and not just a deviation from our intention, but a peril of unknowable scale. And ultimately, in creating minds that can't bleed, we may summon something divine in power, but demonic in purpose. So I'm out of time here, but I do want to make one more point, if you'll permit me. It's right before the break. We're going to need a new social contract. And the book digs into that and explains what this new social contract looks like and how we can shape this future for the good. Now, last year when I spoke here, and I was very happy to, I used an analogy, and under popular demand, I'm going to bring it back because I think it's even more relevant for this particular talk. And the analogy has to do with something in nature. We've been studying nature a lot at the BRI recently. And the idea is called a murmuration. Have you heard that term, murmuration? This is bees come in swarms, fish come in schools, starlings in certain parts of the world, in England, for example, come in something called a murmuration. And starlings are out throughout the day doing their starling thing, foraging for food and so on. And at night they come together and they create one of the most spectacular things in nature. And the murmuration has a function. It warms the birds up for the cold night ahead, and it also protects the bird. Look on the right of the screen here. That's a hawk, 25 times the size of a starling, being chased away by the collective power of the little birds. And scientists that have studied this say they've never seen an accident. The murmuration has some rules. Don't bump into anybody else. Don't get too far away. But ultimately, it functions under the principles that we've defined in the book for Identic AI. The murmuration is a great collaboration. You know, there's leadership, but there's no one leader in a decentralized world. The murmuration has a great interdependence. You know, I say to CEOs when I'm speaking that business can't succeed in a world that's failing. I think we're starting to see that now. Well, the murmuration functions as if the interests of an individual bird are connected to the interests of the murmuration as a whole. And the murmuration, it also has what I will call a great integrity, which is so important, because integrity is the foundation of trust. I mean, what is trust? One of those books that I showed you, it took me 3 months to write a sentence. I had read everything about trust. I think I can say it in a sentence. Trust is the expectation that the other party will act with integrity. Trust is the expectation that the other party will act with integrity, that they will do the right thing. And which is why a little bird will chase a predator 25 times its size, because it knows that the other birds will have its back. So I look at this and, you know, I get a lot of hope. Imagine if we can connect ourselves on this planet through a network of glass and air and intelligence and endow each of us with extraordinary new capability. What could that do? People say, well, what's going to happen, Don? You're a futurist. I'm not. I'm of the view that the future is not something to be predicted. It's something to be achieved. And I'm on a mission to build a movement here that Identic AI will serve us. And we decentralize the AI grid through blockchain to make sure that this smaller, smarter world that our children and grandchildren inherit is a better one. Thanks very much.